Good morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blenderhead, Blender HD, if you want to follow me there on Twitter. And it's Casual Friday, which means you get to ask casual questions if you want. I mean, you can. It's the same thing. We just call it Casual Fridays because it's Fridays, but it's the same thing. I'll take a look at results DB from yesterday, see what happened on that 6-game slate. I broke even, right? The Braves, the Cardinals pitcher is walking, they're walking runs in. And as each run comes in, I'm losing money, right? Like I'm up like $1,000, and then it's like, nope, this guy's gonna walk in, that guy's gonna walk in, and then my number goes down and down and down. I think I made $40 or something by the end of that, right? So we'll take a look at that. We'll take a first look, I guess, at today's MLB slate, 14-gamer. It's Friday, so I'll share the MMA stuff. Right? Some people like that. Some people don't, but whatever. They're like, what is this? It's a DFS show. It has nothing to do. It's not just baseball because baseball's going on. It was basketball before. It's whatever. The preseason stuff happened yesterday, right? I didn't play that Hall of Fame slate, but people were tilting that the Steelers were playing their starters for like the first 3 drives. So I don't know. Did anyone win that? I don't know. I don't know what happened in the showdown slate there. Defense, quarterback, something like that. That should have been your cash lineup. Hopefully that one won it for you. But as always, give me those thumbs ups, thumbs. If you're in the chat, the YouTube chat, I see you guys there. Suki Singh, he's typically first. Daniel Hutchins, who won 100K like 2 days ago, right? Right. He should be doing this show at this point, right? Matt Mears, Brian C., Michael Dompier, Hog Lawrence, who was up there. My audience is more successful than I am, apparently. Apparently, this MLB season, right? I just have a bunch of steak knives. You guys actually took down some stuff, right? I got second place in 8,000 fucking top 8s and top 20s and whatever, right? You guys take first, second, third. I got like I got steak knives and you know, I get plate china. I got nice china, right? In the cupboards or anything like that, but nothing. But no first place finishes. But I see you guys in there. Michael Dompier says for yesterday's afternoon slate, I used the process from this show to make 6 lineups in like 10 minutes. I finished first, second, and last in the 4-seamer. Basically steak knives, but it worked. If you for first in the 4-seamer. That's like that for the early slate. That's probably $2,000 or something, right? That's probably something. Yeah, Hog Lawrence got the steak knives last night. I saw that, right? If I took a look at you came in like 6th or something in the bat flip, right here, 6th, right? I saw that 2250. That's a little bit better than steak knives, but still, look at this Look at the payout curve. That's the point. I've come in like in this range like 20 times this year. Mostly on FanDuel. Because I don't play the bat flip when it's like an $18 contest. But on FanDuel, I've come in like, and FanDuel's even worse because this range is like $500. And it's like 30,000 a first, and like by the time you get here, it's like $300. Right, so I've won a lot of those. So that's the steak knives, right? This range right here, like 6th to 20th, is the steak knives range, where it's like great. Like you need like you need top 3 to like make something, make something, anything. But yesterday's slate was I got somewhat right. I got mostly right. I wanted to go back to the slate. Where's the ownership tab? I hope it saves. No, it doesn't save. I wish it did save. So I have to do this all over again. I wanted to show the difference. Like yesterday, I played like 10 lineups. I played like 10 lineups yesterday. But in the single entry, I want to show you the point in why I play contrarian in single entry. Okay? So in single, I'll do this in a second. Okay, so let's go to the battery. I'll show you my lineup. Okay, it was close. It was here 18th. Right. This is what I mean by I was losing money. I was in like 5th place or something, 6th place towards the end of the slate, and like I'm just losing money to people with Braves in their lineup. Right. So this is the lineup that I played in single entry. We have a lot of single entry players, and some people think that like the strategies that I talk about and the concepts I talk about don't apply to single entry because I'm talking about people that play 100 lineups, right? And I show you using the lineup HQ, and I'm going to build 5 lineups here and 20 lineups there, but it's the same concepts no matter what. So you see here, this is my single entry lineup. Now, most people think single entry, oh, I don't have to, I could play to chalk, right? But the thing is that the chalk gets even more chalkier in single entry. Okay, so in this battery, we take a look at the ownership. Sonny Gray, 56% owned. Touki Toussaint, 51% owned. Okay, Valdez, 35. Then we have Castellanos, 34. We have Diaz, 33. Soler, 29. Swanson. So we see, look at the Braves. We got the Braves. We got Astros. We got Reds. Pretty much that's the chalk as far as and Gray, Toussaint, or Valdez, some kind of combination of that, right? So knowing this, it's like, okay, typically in single entry, I'm more inclined to, if I'm playing a stack, I'm not going to play a chalk stack. Doesn't mean I'm going to play like completely off the board, but I'm not going to play the chalk. I'm not going to play a red stack like as a 5-man. I'm not going to play a red stack, not going to play a Brave stack, not going to play a Astro stack. And I'm probably not going to play one of the top owned pitchers. And that's how I'm going to get different. Now, the better way to get different is obviously if you're going to choose a stack, play it against one of the higher owned pitchers, especially since it's only a 6-game slate. Now, according to the bat projections plus slate IQ, the highest differential between the winning percentage and ownership was going to be the Cardinals. That's why I had it calculated as. So the Cardinals were the most plus EV stack. They weren't the most probable to be the winning stack, but they were the most plus EV stack. And especially now, they're going to be against a chalky Touki Toussaint. So I'm like, I'm going to play the Cardinals in single entry. Obviously, I'm not going to play Toussaint in that lineup, right? So that's the reason why my lineup looked like this. I'm most likely going to play 5-3, so I just have to get 2 teams right. Occasionally, I'll play 5-2-1 if something doesn't fit and I can't do anything about it. So here is my lineup. The St. Louis stack, using the catcher, especially. So I'm playing the main pieces: Goldschmidt, Arenado, Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, Andrew Knizner. And then, being that I'm playing Rush Stripling at 15%, Valdez Stripling, right? I'm not even playing Gray in this lineup. Like I could play the chalk Cincinnati pieces, right? They were the highest projected team yesterday in the bat. So I'm like, I already have enough leverage. I didn't think they would be this low owned. I thought the Cardinals would be like 5% owned total. Average. So I'm like, okay, what fits? India, Farmer, Castellanos, who's underpriced at 3,700. Done. There you go. 5-3. But this is, if you look at these percentages, you go, wow, this is really contrarian. Wow, this is something you'd play in large field. Like, no, this is something you play in small field. One direct path to leverage. Just easy. Just can the Cardinals beat up Touki Toussaint? I could win this single entry contest if that happens. I'm going to kill 50% of the lineups in this contest because I know where it's going to go. This is what I mean by single entry, being contrarian, because you know where to go. we take a look at the ownership, what I was going to bring up before. I wish this thing saved. I never really knew that you can't come back to the screen and it has all the stuff here. So I'm gonna put up the battery, that single entry contest. I'm gonna put up the medium whatever contest, and I'm gonna put up the bat flip, right, or something like that. Now look at the difference in Touki Toussaint. Look at the difference in Sonny Gray. Like, they're more owned. I mean, I show you this all the time. The chalk is chalkier. Instead of being 51%, he's 56 for Gray. Toussaint is a difference between 40 and 51, right? Which means, obviously, if Touki Toussaint is more owned in the battery than the bat flip, like, you get rid of this right here. It'd be even easier. That means the Cardinals will be more owned in the bat flip. I mean, not by much. If we take a look at some of these Cardinals players, like we look at Arenado, I mean, look at this. You get half is owned in the single entry, right? Goldschmidt, right? Half is owned. I mean, it's still fine that he's 3% owned in the bat flip. You can still play in the bat flip, but you get more relative value now in the single entry. I mean, look at Knizner, who hit that home run, first of the year. Like, no one's playing him in this single entry contest. Right? We take a look at Tyler O'Neill. Right, 6% in the bat flip, 2.8 in the single entry. Because what ends up happening when it comes to single entry contests, these or the smaller field stuff versus the larger field stuff, is that ownership moves from this to this. It spreads sideways. The chalk gets chalkier, but also the low-owned players get even more low-owned, right? It's nothing bunches. When it comes to large field, the stuff starts bunching up more because people are more cognizant of that. They're more cognizant of, well, should I play chalk Jorge Soler? Well, I'm going to get different elsewhere. But in single entry, in the small field stuff, people don't think enough that way. They go, oh, I don't have to get as different. I'm going to get different in 2 spots, and that's it, right? So you still see all of this ownership getting condensed. Look at all the players that are 20. Sort by the battery. 20+% owned is all the way up here. Here, I mean, look, Aledmys Diaz was only 20% owned in the bat flip, 33% in the single entry with a 0. Castellanos, 23% in the bat flip, 34 in the single entry with a 2. You would have gotten a 2 from anyone. If you faded Castellanos, you were fine. Obviously, I was playing him as part of a red stack because I already was playing 2% owned Cardinals, so it didn't matter. George Springer, nothing. 22% owned. Well, both contests, actually. Then you take a look at Ross Stripling. Because Touki Toussaint and Sonny Gray were getting much more ownership than the bat flip, that means in my lineup, I'm playing Ross Stripling. Ross Stripling was 21% owned in the bat flip, but lower owned in the single entry because if I'm going to stack against Toussaint, then I need to find another pitcher. And I'm going to find a pitcher. Now, I could have played Gray and Valdez, but I couldn't have fit the Reds in that lineup because now I'm spending way too much money, right? I would have to, I don't know what the hell I'm going to fit in the last 3 spots. So Stripling fit that bill, right? Save $1,100 down from Valdez, from Gray, or to $500 from Gray, whatever. But it's a direct result. So that's why I played Ross Stripling, because it makes sense that I'm avoiding the top 2 owned pitchers. If they both don't do well, I'm destroying so many lineups. It's an easier path. I think that's the better way of putting it. Find your path. What is the path to success? It's a 460 entry contest versus the bat flip, which is in the 5 figures, 30,000, who knows, whatever it is that day. Single entry, small field, it's much easier to just define a path. What needs to go my way in order for me to win? Because let's say you played Gray, Toussaint, and the Mariners, which I had a bunch of. The Mariners were number 2 in EV to me. They were not the highest probability at all. So let's say you go, I'm going to play Gray, Toussaint, the Mariners, and the Braves together. Right. You're going to, okay, the Mariners off the board. I give you that. Right. They're off the board, especially in single entry. Okay. The Braves, chalk. The Gray and Toussaint, chalk. Okay. So what needs to go your way? It's like the chalk, all the chalk needs to hit, and the Mariners need to be the top. The Mariners need to be the top owned team. The top scoring team. Like in my lineup, the Cardinals don't have to be the top scoring team. So understand the difference between that. Okay, when you're playing if you're playing chalk Brave, if you're playing Toussaint and the Braves, Toussaint, Gray, and the Braves, and then your Mariners are your difference maker. Well, there's going to be so many lineups that's Gray, Toussaint, and the Braves. I mean, you're already there's going to be 5-man stacks of the Braves. You have a 3-man or something because you have a 5-man Mariners. So you're going to have lineups that you're going to be competing. That Mariners lineup is going to be competing against a lot of other lineups if the rest of your lineup doesn't well. If Gray puts up 25 points, if Toussaint puts up 25 points, if the Braves put up 8 runs, and you have something, you have Swanson and Riley or something in there, and whoever, Soler, like you're sharing all those points with 56%, 51%, 29%, 27%. There's a lot of lineups up there that look like yours that don't have Mariners in it. Okay? Now at that point, you're competing against, you could be competing against 60 other lineups, 80 other lineups. Maybe even more, 100 out of the 460. They don't have Mariners. Maybe some of them have Mariners in them. They have a 5-man Astros. Maybe they have it. Maybe it's a 3-3-2. Maybe it's a messy lineup, right? But the only way for you to get from like 80th to first is, do the Mariners put up 8+ runs, right? So you need the chalk to succeed, and you need your differentiator. I don't need the Cardinals to put up 8+ runs. I just need, if you take a look at my lineup, what do I need? Right? I need Gray to not be a top scorer. I don't need the Pirates putting up 8+ runs. I don't need, right? I just need Gray to not be as good. I need, obviously, Toussaint to fail. And with Toussaint failing, I have Cardinals in my lineups. That's directly negatively correlated to that. And then Cincinnati. And Cincinnati with chalk, okay, fine. If Cincinnati put up 12 runs in the 5-man Cincinnati stack, that means like if it turns out that the winning lineup is more of a 5-man Reds, 3-man Cardinals, then I end up coming in like 4th or 5th place, right? Because the Cincinnati stack beats me instead of the 5-man Cardinal stack beats me, right? Because Gray already is dead and Toussaint's dead, right? So who am I fighting over? Who am I fighting with? Well, my path to victory is not each piece of the chalk. So those 3 things for you, if you played the Braves plus Gray plus Toussaint, you need 1, 2, 3 things to go your way, and then beat 60 to 80 other people with your Mariners stack. I need 2 out of the 3 of those things to not work out, and the Cardinals to just put up enough runs that I get up there. Right? I don't need, right? I almost did it. I mean, literally almost did it yesterday. Right? With Stripling, the Cardinals, I had Castellanos with 2 points. I mean, until the Braves were walking a ton of people, I was sitting in, the steak knives area, right? The steak knives area of the contest. You're trying to win the low scoring slates. I'm not trying to win the high scoring slates. So when the chalk hits, like if it turns out that the Braves, go off for 12 runs on, several home runs and Gray and Toussaint do well, I'm way at the bottom. Just whatever. It's just whatever it is. But because the ownership tends to get more condensed and I could predict more likely where that is going to condense, makes it easier for me to make decisions on where to leverage. I'm aiming for first place. So I'm not looking at cash. See, when it comes to the large field stuff, now you don't have, obviously, Toussaint is 40%, so I mean, that's still worth stacking against, right? Valdez. Now I played Twins against Valdez. That didn't work out because the bottom of the order. I had Donaldson and Garver and Rooker, and they didn't do anything. Sano is a walk-in strikeout. There's still plus EV in the bat flip, just not as much as taking one of them. Like if you said, I want to play the Pirates in single entry, you could have done that. You could have done the same exact lineup, but in that lineup, you're probably playing Toussaint. The difference is that the Pirates, like I'm looking at my sheet, the Pirates rejected way lower than the Cardinals. But you could do it. The Pirates would be nothing owned in single entry. But most people don't have the balls to do that. They go, oh, okay, well, I only have one lineup. Play the best lineup you can. Play the best lineup that has the best chance of winning first place. And you could visualize your hand building. You could visualize what do I need? What needs to happen for me to win first? And usually that involves at least 1, 2, or 3 pieces of the chalk failing. You don't want to play them. They're going to be over-owned in the single entry contest. So if that fails, then what succeeds? And a lot of times one of these things has something directly negatively correlated to them, and you play that. You go, if Toussaint fails, most likely you don't have to play a 5-man Cardinal stack, but 3-man Cardinal stack, whatever. The Cardinals most likely did well. If Gray fails, the Pirates did someone on the Pirates, something on the Pirates. If Valdez fails, something Minnesota Twins. So to me, that's the easiest way to think of these smaller field single entry contests. Do you need to go in and run 100 lineups? You could. Run out looking at the ownership versus the projection. You could do that. You just visualize it yourself. Let's go through the YouTube chat. Daniel Hutchins says, so far for MLB, my sims consistently show that the battery, which is the 121 single entry, has the most edge of any contest I have measured in terms of ROI. And I would agree with you. Well, well, maybe not at this point in the season, probably earlier in the season. The bat flip or the 4-seamer or whatever, the large field stuff always has people throwing in pretty bad lineups. Not like horrible lineups, or just like min cash type of lineups. But it's also August. So maybe like in April and May, in the beginning of the season, where there's been maybe some bad players haven't gone broke yet type of thing. But yeah, but the battery, yeah, because the ownership gets so convoluted. That's why I play the ball fours close to that also. Because people just throw in their top projected lineup, or they throw in their cash lineup. Like that's even worse. Throwing in their cash lineup into that contest. And no, they're just, to me, I'll just take advantage of it. But I'm not looking to cash in that contest. I'm looking to win. I'm looking to come in, top 10 at least. Something like that. Let's see. All right, Daniel Hutchins, you're absolutely correct. To be clear, ownership should be more condensed for a smaller contest like the battery with a flatter payout structure, but the field way overdoes it. Right. That's why I said you don't have to get nuts. You just avoid the stuff that is way overowned. Like this is a 6-game slate, so obviously there aren't that many choices. But like I said with the battery, you could have played the Pittsburgh Pirates stack, 5-man Pittsburgh Pirates stack. You could have, but you didn't need. You don't even need to do that. It's only a 460 entry contest with a flatter payout structure. So what I mean by flatter payout structure matters is that the difference between first and second is not that dramatic that you need to really shoot for first, right? The difference between first, second, third, fourth, we get these payout structures, which I like. It's 5,000, 4,000, 3,000, 2,500, 2,000, 1,500, 1,000, where, the differences of 3 points towards the top. Oh, I didn't win first place. I came in third for 3,000. Right? And you're like, oh, instead of 5,000, I won 3,000. Yeah, but in another contest, sometimes it's 100,000, 40,000, 20,000. So the difference between first and third place is $80,000. Right? When the content, when it's that heavy, that steep up there, you aim pirate stack all the way. Let's go. Let's play nutso lineups if we were doing that. But when the difference between first and fifth, then it's flat enough that a 1 point difference in ceiling or something. Oh, you come in second. You get 4,000 instead of 5,000. So okay, but that's proportionally that isn't that bad, right? It isn't that bad. But still, it's way overdone. Especially a pitcher. I mean, like the pitchers yesterday did not all project like that greatly comparison to one another. There was no pit like between Gray, Toussaint, Valdez, Stripling, even Cortez a little bit. I was concerned more about the pitch count there. Like they didn't project that from a raw points perspective. Even Keuchel didn't project, was not that dramatically lower than the other pitchers on this slate. That like they're interchangeable. Yes, Gray projected higher raw point wise than the other ones, but not dramatically enough that he should be 56% owned. So that's why the choice between Valdez and Gray seemed obvious to me. Given I could have played because I was obviously stacking against Toussaint, so I'm not playing him. I'm playing Stripling instead, and then I'm like, okay, I could play Gray here because I don't need the leverage anymore. I got a 2% owned Cardinal stack against Toussaint, but I'm like, how often does Gray outscore Valdez? That the ownership, because I was thinking, I was thinking that the ownership on Gray in the 121 was going to be 60 to 65%. I thought Valdez would be 30. I thought it would be a 2-to-1 difference. I mean, it was almost 56 to 35. I thought it would be more like 60 to 30. And based on the projections, the Gray projected, I think, 2 points higher than Valdez. So that's not a 2-to-1 difference. So it's like, why not just get automatic EV by just playing Valdez here? I'm like, okay, I'll play Valdez instead of Gray, and there you go. I don't need to be perfect. See, those are the types of lineups where as long as the chalk fails, you don't need to be perfect. You could win with Castellanos in 2 points. Win first place, right? If Knizner hit another home run, if he had 2 home runs and I had a catcher at 1%, I could have won it yesterday. I think I could have won it yesterday, possibly. But that with 0, with 2 in my lineup, with the Dylan Carlson 4, right? With Arenado 5 in my lineup. Or 7 or whatever the hell he had. But that's the mentality shift that you need to have. It extends to large field stuff, but your goal should be to try to win the low scoring slates, not the high scoring ones. And the high scoring ones are when obviously the more people that have the players that do well, the higher the scores are going to be, right? If the chalk does well, you're going to see high scores. It's easier to win when the chalk fails. And you don't have to be perfect. When the chalk succeeds, you have to be perfect. Right? If Gray, Toussaint, the Brave stack, like, where you need Joey Gallo, and you would have needed Joey Gallo in your lineup. He had 30 points. He was the highest scorer on the slate. When the chalk fails, you wouldn't need Joey Gallo. I think was what 8-9% owned in the bat flip or something like that. It's possible he couldn't have not even been necessary. But probably at 9%, probably in the large field, in the small field. I'm not sure if he was necessary. Let's take a look. Where's like in the fence buster even? I mean, that's a 21 entry contest. Right? But if we take a look at the fence buster, with a 21 entry, home run derby is $400 single entry. So let's take a look at look at the lineups that people play here, like Brick. Stacks. I mean, here's a Yankee stack with a 0 from Rizzo with Lynch and Gray. And this is a 21 entry contest. You had Brian Brick 75. Look how contrarian kind of this is for a 21 entry contest, right? Because I don't know what people are playing. I can't see anything below this. Cincinnati, Houston. Got some Astros that are broken. Megalot. KCR. Tucson. Like you don't need to win with much in these contests. Let's take a look at the home run. I want to take a look at because I wanted to take a look at the losing lineups. Look at these lineups. So someone won $4,000 with the Atlanta 5-man and some stripling. It's not that dramatically different. But the main thing is what you're exploiting when you play contrarian. I'm using the air quotes because you're really not playing contrarian. You're playing plus ROI. You're playing knowing you're going to lose 90% of the time. Yet if you play like this every day, you're going to bink a couple of times throughout the course of the season and be wildly profitable. Most people think in the other terms. I want to cash more often. Fear of missing out. I gotta play Castellanos. I gotta play Castellanos. I gotta play Gray. I only have one lineup. So if I lose the $121, oh my God. Well, then you're playing above your bankroll if you're thinking that way. Right? If you're playing the 121, you should have at least $10,000 in your bankroll. Represents what, 1.2%? Right? I'd say it should be more, but at least 10,000. So if you don't cash that day, your bankroll goes from 10,000 to 98.80, 98.79. So you don't have to think about like, oh, well, what happens if I lose? Well, then tomorrow's another day. Play the 121, you make the same type of assessment, and you do that thing. And take advantage of the people that are playing the 121 single entry in general that are playing too conservative. And it condenses that ownership. Just take advantage of it. I shouldn't tell you to take advantage of it because I'm already doing it. And more and more people that don't play the chalk in the single entry contests, that's good. My ROI goes down. But if you want to do it, do it. Do it with me. You could do it in a different way. You could have decided yesterday to play the Pirates. So you could have said, I'm going to play the Twins against Valdez in the single, and that would have been fine. Right? Or you could have played the card. You could have done what I did, but only play a 3-man stack, or don't stack. Play 4-3-1. Play 3-3-2. It could have been a lot of different things. Okay, let's look through the YouTube chat. Uncrabby Cabby. Hey Jordan, I ended up with the Cincinnati Cleveland with Gray last night on FanDuel single entry. Okay, I don't know what the prices were in FanDuel. I think I was on the right track. Just Cleveland 3-man failed. Cleveland was okay without Joe Ram in the lineup. That was a very weak lineup. That's why I jammed Stripling more. But Cleveland was really cheap on DraftKings. I did play. I think I played 2 Cleveland lineups. But I get it. Just that that lineup is not good. Matt Mears says, in the battery, I ended up going with Cincy as my main stack because with as good as their projection was, I didn't think they would be owned enough with the other chalky teams. And you were correct. No, I agree with that. That's why I didn't mind playing. I didn't mind playing the 3-man Reds, but I was already committed to the Cardinals. I would have played like a 4-4 if that would have fit, right? I would have played 4 Cardinals, 4 Reds, but that didn't line up that way. Like I didn't want to play DeJong, so I'm playing Kyle Farmer, right? Like that's automatically in there. And then Stevenson, I believe, is overpriced for 4,300. So if I'm playing Knizner to just because he goes along with the stack, like it works out that way. And then first and third, I'm playing Goldschmidt and Arenado, not Votto and Suarez, right? I'm not doing that, right? So my main priority was the Cardinals. So if I'm going to stack the Cardinals, I'm going to have Goldie and I'm going to have Goldie, O'Neill, and I'm going to have that heart of that order in the lineup regardless. Robert Gall, welcome back. I haven't seen Robert in a while. I can't understand why the Cardinal stack was so low owned. I was shocked when the slate locked. The leverage was massive. Right, and that's what you try to take advantage of. I mean, I made money. Didn't win, but I made money. That Reyes guy for the Cardinals, he hits a guy and then walks 4 in a row. How is he a major league pitcher? It's not like the Braves did all that well. It's just that these 2-3 points, the walk RBI, they're not even hitting the ball. Like I'm in like 7th place or something, whatever it is. And then it's like now I'm in 10th, and now I'm in 12th, and now I'm in 18th. And just on walks. Okay. Do we have anything weather for? No. We don't really have any weather. Brault's had an easy job this week. There really hasn't been much weather to have. I mean, there's been weather. Obviously, we don't live in a vacuum. There's weather going on. But no rain chances. Is it a drought? Is there no rain going on in this? We have a very large country and there's no rain. Or it's just raining in places that don't play baseball. Okay. I guess so. So we got that. What do we got going today? Take a look-see. Corbin Burns, Chris Bassett. And the pitching, Wainwright. Marquez in Colorado against Miami. Does Miami project well? Manoah. Oh, if Manoah's gonna be chalk, I'm gonna be stacking against him. Let's take a look. I'm just looking at preliminary. I mean, this is literally the first time I'm looking at it. Let's take a look at these stack projections. Tampa Bay on the top. The Marlins, okay. The Marlins come in point per dollar wise, but they're up there, 89. Diamondbacks because they're so cheap. Angels because they're so cheap, I guess, down here. Marlins. What does their lineup look like? Where are the Marlins? Are they going to be owned? Right, Brinson is their cleanup hitter. That's how bad their lineup is. Chisholm, Rojas, Aguiar, Brinson, Anderson, Alfaro, Sandy Leon. So Alfaro's playing the outfield now. Oh, God. Brian De La Cruz. They're cheap. I mean, because they didn't like you have a cleanup hitter in Coors batting for minimum price. Are they going to be owned? I'm assuming they're going to have to be owned. It's a cheap team in Coors. The Rays have the highest ceiling, but of course not a great point per dollar value. So we may see low ownership on the Rays, the Braves, the Reds, maybe. I don't know. The Yankees. The Pirates are kind of up there with Wade Miley. They're playing in Cincinnati, right? The Indians. Now, there are places to go here. But teams like the Blue Jays, like they may be overowned. I'm just looking through this. Seeing what's going to happen. Let's take a look at, well, I'm assuming we're going to get Burns, Bassett in the optimal, the bat optimal. Burns, Bassett, and yeah, not just Aguiar on Miami. So not like nutso. Odor, Donaldson, Story, Hayes, Zimmer, Cruz, like a mix. So it's not even clear cut. It's not like shoving like Lewis Brinson into your lineup for cash games or something. It's not going to be. So maybe Miami isn't going to be as high owned. I mean, I don't think they're going to be ridiculously high owned, but I mean, they're going to be. It's a team in Coors. What's the team total on Miami? Are they going to be the only ones that have less than a 5 team total in Coors? Yeah, 4.25. Yeah, look at this total. It's going to be an under 10 in Coors. Yeah, 9.5 in Coors Field. That's how bad these teams are. And also the pitchers are decent. The pitchers are good. Alcantara and Marquez are actually pretty good pitchers. And the Marlins and the Rockies batters are awful. I mean, these are bad teams. So maybe will Coors go under-owned then? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. JB, how do the pros win on chalky days and the days where the chalk doesn't, and the days where the chalk doesn't hit? But because they're playing both types of lineups, right? In the large field stuff, like when I'm playing 150 lineups, I'm not like I didn't fade Tukey Toussaint in like even in the 10 lineups that I did play. I played Tukey in 3 out of my 10 lineups. Okay. So I hand built 10 lineups yesterday. Okay, sort of pseudo hand build. I ran some stuff in lineup HQ, but then I entered them in on my phone. I'm looking for one leverage thing. So like Tukey could be in lineups, but just the Tukey lineups, have a certain types of things in them. So the same thing with the chalk. Like I played the Yankees yesterday, right? I played the Reds. I played the Braves. I had one Braves lineup. Swanson, Albies, whatever, Soler. But in that lineup, I probably had Stripling instead of Gray. I probably had Tukey because that goes along with the Braves, and I probably had like Minnesota to stack against Valdez. So like a 5-man Atlanta with a 3-man Minnesota, or something like that. So yeah, that's it. The Braves were chalky, right? But then in that type of lineup, you have it. Now, where do you find the leverage? Maybe I'm playing Cleveland. I don't play Stripling. Maybe I play Keuchel in that lineup, and I'm playing the 3-man Indians in that lineup. This is the lineups, not players thing. This is why if you see me on Grinders Live or Crunch Time, I don't like doing those shows because people ask me, should I play this guy or that guy? It's like, well, it depends on your lineup. Play whoever you want. You can play whoever you want. It just depends on how do you build the lineup together. If yesterday you said, I want to play Gray, Tukey, Braves, Reds, I'd say like you shouldn't. And they go, aren't those the best teams to play? I go, yes, but that lineup as a whole has no relative value. Like it has a good min cash equity, but I mean, that's a high scoring slate type of lineup. Now, you could play those teams, but just don't play like Braves. You're playing Gil Heredia. Like you could do it. Now you're playing Gil Heredia instead of playing Riley. You're playing Suarez, batting 8th, right? You're playing Kevin Smith instead of Tyler Stevenson in that line, right? Like you could still play Braves plus Reds. Just like don't play Castellanos. Play Naquin or something. Or you're playing Winker and you're not playing Castellanos in that lineup. And then you're playing Daniel Lynch at pitcher. Okay, now you've made a Braves plus Reds lineup that is not, the teams are both owned, but that specific combination may not be as much. But you have to find where are you getting leverage? Where are you getting relative value from? So depending on you could play a chalk stack. Don't play chalk stack with both chalk pitchers. And if you're going to do it with both chalk pitchers, don't play it with a chalk 3-man. You find the 3-man off the Pittsburgh, right? You don't play Gray. You play Valdez, Toussaint, Braves, and then the 3-man Pittsburgh. Or 1-man, you play Polanco in the line. I mean, there's so many different ways you could do it. So like the pros, when you play 150 lineups, are doing all of that, right? I mean, I did it in 10 lineups. I mean, I'm playing a Cardinal stack, and then in my next lineup, I'm playing Touki Toussaint. It's diversification, because that lineup could still, the Toussaint lineup and the non-Toussaint, me stacking against the Cardinals lineup, could have similar expected values. 2 different outcomes, but based on the probability of these lineups coming in first place, coming in high, are close to the same, but they require 2 different outcomes. So I want both outcomes. So that's in 150 lineups. That's what sharper players are doing. Now you can't cover all the outcomes in 150 lineups at all. It's specifically like there's too many. There's millions upon millions of combinations, especially on a 14-game slate, billions combinations. But that's what they're doing in 150 lineups. Yeah, they're playing Brave stack. How do I build lineups that have enough leverage with a Brave stack? How do I build enough lineups with whatever? I mean, like I could play on a 6-game slate. If I was playing 150 lineups yesterday, I would have one of every stack. Every team at least. Maybe not the same stack, but I would have had Kansas City. I didn't have any Kansas. I built 10 lineups. I didn't have any Kansas City, right? But I would have some Royals. Maybe 2 lineups. But I'd try to build now in those Royals lineups, that could have Gray and Toussaint in it, right? That could have Gray, Toussaint, and the Reds. In a 5-man Royal stack, you played like Perez and Santana and Benintendi, whoever, Toe Dozier. It's like you could play the chalk around that, right? You could do that, right? And then you go to the next lineup and you go, How are you going to build that lineup? How are you going to build this lineup? How do you get into that line? That you get a diverse amount of lineups that all have similar projections, similar ownership, similar range between there. And if you simulated that out, one slate, your lineups show up like this, and you come in 7th place with whatever the Cardinals stack because Toussaint got shelled. Then you simulate the next slate, and Toussaint has 37 points with 12 strikeouts. So you win. You come in 12th place with your Toussaint plus Yankees lineup. Then you simulate it again. Gray gets shelled, and actually a Pittsburgh lineup is in first place. But luck just so happens you have 2 Pittsburgh lineups, and one of them wins, right? Like you're the outcome. You're not predicting the outcome. You're looking at the probabilities of these outcomes happening, and then building lineups to cater to that, right? That you get enough relative value between you and your opponents that if things tilt this way, you have a chance to win. And if things tilt that way, you have another lineup that has a chance to win. If things tilt like this, you could win that way. You like the combinations of the things that need to happen for you to win. Like there's tons of them. You're not looking to, I'm going to play 150 lineups and play 150 Cardinal stack. I mean, you can, if you believe that that's so much higher EV than anything else. Just understand if that outcome doesn't happen, you'll lose all your money. Which if you're fine with, that's fine. Then move on to the next day. Some sharp players do play like that with a lower diversification. They go, I'm gonna take my best idea, I'm gonna put it in all my lineups, and then rotate around from there. And if that thing happens, I got 150 bullets to win first place. Just understand, you play 150 lineups at $10 a piece, it's $1,500. That strategy, a lot of days, you're going to be losing 95% of it. If you're a little bit more diversified, the bad day will be a minus 70%. If you're even more diversified, you may only lose 25% on an average day. Put in 1,500, you get back 1,100. It's like, okay, move on to tomorrow. Put in 1,500, you get back 1,300. It's like, okay, on to tomorrow. Right? But that's a matter of diversification. That's not a matter of strategy. You still need to make good lineups. As Daniel Hutchins says, if you are mass entering or closer to the optimal or correct frequencies than the field, you should get more than your fair share of the prize pool on average. This is one way that MMEers win, right? With volume. Okay. But I don't play as high volume I'm not going to dump in $40,000 a slate and try to eke out 4%, 3-4%. To me, it's too risky. I'm more likely to win by game theory, only because as far as I'm using publicly available projections. So like, I don't know if I could exploit it that way. To me, I consider my strength to be game theory. So I'm more likely to play less lineups and make sure those lineups are significantly higher EV than my opponents, and then just hope variance goes my way, right? Hey Blender, are you going to discuss the new tools? Oh yeah, we got stuff in Lineup HQ. We got stuff in Lineup HQ. Let's take a look. We go to build rules. You can see here we have custom rules. Okay. Custom, it's on the build rules page. Build rules. Anything in the play? We didn't do anything with player groups. We could list player groups now. Okay. Custom rules. You could add a custom rule. Give me lineups at least 1, 2 positions. We're going to be fixing this that you could put in all positions. So you don't have to like click through all of them. But let's say give my lineups at most 1 starting pitcher who has at most 50% ownership or something like that. Right? You can make rules like this. Like if this was an all, let's say there was an all, which there's going to be. because that was my first feedback of like, well, I want it to be all the third base, shortstop, outfield. So let's say you want, give my lineups at most 2 Let's say there's 3 50% owned players on the slate, 50+% owned players. You're like, give my lineups at most 2. You don't have to make a group. You don't have to go in and make a group of like, well, I don't want to play these 3 guys together, right? Let's say there's a batter and 2 pitchers that are super uber owned. Burns, Bassett, and some chalk player, some batter. You don't have to worry. You don't have to make the group. Just go in here. I don't want 2 of but 50% owned players. Or you could go in here and you go, at most 0. Let's say you don't want anyone in the player pool. And obviously you could use the minimum fantasy points threshold of 5, but you could use a group like this. Give my lineups at least 1 batter. So we just use the batters here, who have at least 10 points or something like that. You could do any of these you could add more custom rules. So if you need that type of thing, and we'll start probably adding some other stuff like salary or whatever in here. You could delete them. So if you need a little bit more control, that doesn't require you to necessarily make groups. So let's say you go in now. We take a look at the ownership. Like, let's say you didn't want to play, 2 pitchers that were over 20%. You didn't want to play Burns and Bassett together in a lineup. Well, you just say, you don't want to play anyone that's 20% owned in a lineup together, and then you can just make that rule. You could make a rule about catch. You can't make that rule because you're better off in a group. As far as using a catcher in a stack of a certain amount of points, use a cat. Has to have at least a catcher that scores 6 points, which eliminates all these 5-point catchers. Like, just shortcuts on making any rule that you would want like that. There's not much more to show. I mean, just it depends on what you want to use them for. And I don't think they're as useful in baseball, because most likely you're stacking and stuff. Maybe in football, maybe in basketball. Like basketball, I could see when there's less correlation to worry about. Right? Give me at least 1 guard that has at least, 40-point projection or something like that. I could see. But if you want to add whatever, you could add as many as you want. I'm assuming there's a limit, but for the most part, and as many as you want. Now, in lineup HQ. And yes, Michael Dompier, this is the type of direction we're going. That's an improvement. I wonder if they can adjust player groups to say, give me at most 10% Sonny Gray and Valdez now. Yes. I mean, you can we, are they disabled? Yeah, we implemented that for a little bit and then it didn't work well. But yes, we're gonna be working on that. Whatever. The developers, I don't do anything. They do something, I look at it and I go, shouldn't it be this way? And then they fix it. Like that's typically what it is. But if you need those custom rules, custom build rules, whatever, there you go. Most likely in baseball, I'm not going to need it. But you never know. You never know what comes up. Oh, maybe in MMA. Maybe in MMA I may need it. So quickly, MMA, since UFC, whatever the number is tomorrow. Last week, if you followed my advice last week, you probably did really well. I did, right? I mean, what, 17,000 yesterday? Last week? I could have had the winning lineup. I mean, it was the exact type of lineup that I was saying, right? Yet last week I said it's a short slate. We have insane amount of ownership coming in on this Stolze guy. You play Gooden, the direct underdog, leverage to that, and you leave like 2,000 on the table. More than 2,000 on the table. You know what the winning lineup in the large field GPP was? It was a good lineup that left 2,600 on the table. So, like, I played tons of lineups that left 2,000 on the table. I just didn't happen to have that one lineup. But I did win the 555, so that gave me all the money in the world. So for looking on my cheat sheet, this is based on the ownership we have currently in lineup HQ, which is not correct. I can tell you right now that Chiesa is not going to be 17% owned, right? He's more likely to be double this. Chiesa is probably going to be like 34% owned, but on the basis of using the ownership, right? I always look at like inside the distance versus the actual betting odds. Like this is the betting odds as of yesterday. The win odds, the inside the distance odds, the round one odds. So like to me, Menefield has the highest inside the distance, 45% owned versus Herman, who may be the lowest owned fighter on the slate. 8% owned, but he's 19% chance to win inside the distance. 33% chance of just plain out winning the fight. 11% chance of winning in the first round. 8% is all of these are over. So as of based on just looking at this, I'm going to be under on Menefield and over on Herman. Especially Menefield, him as a fighter. He pretty much either wins in round one or loses. Right? I mean, he's won in the second round, I guess. But he's more of a like he'll come out. He's either going to knock you out in the first round or he may gas out. But as of now, that's like the biggest leverage play on the slate, and it's positive EV. I mean, look, it's all green. At 8% ownership. I mean, if this ownership comes up to 17, not as much anymore, right? So it's all dependent on this ownership. That's why I said like Chiesa right now would be an amazing play, but I think he's going to be more like 34% owned, right? And then it's just like, right? So looking at this, like even like Simmons against Munoz, even though I'm probably going to play plenty of Munoz, right? Aldo, no one's going to play Aldo at 8,600. Like from a scoring perspective, he's not a good fighter to play at 8,600. But if he's only going to be 12% owned, I guess I'm going to have a lot of Jose Aldo, right? Hopefully he gets a plus 405 inside the distance. It's not good. Same for Tisha Torres, right? Like these right here in this range, like who's going to pay 8,600, 8,700 for these inside the distance lines? 13% chance, 20% chance. But like if Tisha Torres is going to be 14% and Aldo is 12%, like Aldo is underowned. It's weird to say he's underowned at 12%. Now, if he ends up being 20%, then it's no longer that great of a play anymore, right? If Tisha Torres goes down to 7%, then I got a player, right? So really, it all depends on this ownership. These odds don't change that dramatically, right? I'll update them today, and this will be instead of minus 110, it'll be minus 115. Oh my God. Inside the distance, instead of 180, it'll be 170. It's not going to dramatically change anything. It's the ownership that matters more than anything. So this is my little cheat sheet that I use. That I put in all the odds, I put in the ownership, and I'll basically just raw tell me who's over-owned and under-owned. Give me a little color coding. So I could go through and I could go, okay. You got Aldo, you got, and even the people that are going to be high owned. I mean, Menefield has a 58% chance of winning inside the distance, and he's only going to be 45% owned. So like it's not like he's that bad, right? Fiziev and Munoz up here, Gatto, like all these are in the green. But then we look down here like Munoz and Hill, like if they're going to be popular underdog plays, like if Munoz against Aldo is going to be a popular underdog play, I may have barely any of them. Because he may be at 32%. I don't know if he's going to be 32%, but way over-owned. Hill, way over-owned at 24%, based on these odds. Even a guy like compare Kenny and Yadong, which is that $8,200, $8,000 fight. Like based on this ownership, if Yadong's going to be 26%, which I'm not sure. I think this will be flipped a little. But based on this ownership, Kenny would be much better than Yadong. Do I know anything about these fighters? Not really. I listen to some stuff. Right? We got the breakdown. We got the MMA stuff. Mike Brown, H. Street Buddha, Head Chopper on occasion, PSU, Sean. They do that. They do the MMA stuff. So if you want to sign up for RotoGrinders Premium, you get that too. Click on the link in the description, get $10 off your first month. But I don't need to know anything about the fighters. I just need to know what are the odds. These are the things that correlate the most to 90 plus or 100 plus point scores. The only things that I need to highlight is if it's a main event, because then it gives you 5 rounds of scoring. So if it goes to decision, you get more points, and that's not going to be reflected in inside in these odds, and knowing how they fight. So for instance, like Chiesa is more of a chain grappler, so even though his inside the distance is lower, in a decision he could score 100 plus points. Aldo in a decision, I don't know if it's possible for him to score 100 points. Right? So you kind of need the stoppage. So it doesn't reflect that type of skill, because this has no bearing on how many takedowns, how many strikes, how many nothing. Just that most likely, if the person gets a finish, it's very highly correlated with a 100 plus point score. There are very few fighters that in 3 rounds could put up a 100 plus point score without a finish. So I need to know what those fighters are. I need to basically they're grapplers for DraftKings at least. But this is it. This is how I won yet last week, right? I had Gooden buys. I my 555 lineup was contrarian. You'd look at the lineup and go, just like with this battery, the single entry 121, because I do the same exact thing. The chalk will be chalkier. If Menefield is going to be 45% in large field, he may be 58% in the 555, which means Herman may be like 5% owned. And you know what I do in the 555? I play Herman. And then you're going to say to me, well, what happens if Menefield goes out and gets the quick win bonus and knocks him out in 3 seconds? Well, then I lose. That's it. So it has nothing to do with what happens. It's like what's most likely to win me first place. Like that. Can I knock out 50 to 60% of lineups in one boost and get a 5% on fighter that has 100 plus points? Like, there you go. Like, once I do that, then what's in the rest of my lineup doesn't matter as much. Right? I won the 555 last week with 2 losing fighters. Okay? Just to put things into perspective of how much chalk failed last week. 250% on fighters lost. Okay? Three out of the top 4 owned fighters lost. The mispriced 7K fighter lost, and the two biggest favorites lost. Okay, my lineup in the 555 had 2 losses. Now Garcia lost and put up a good amount of points, but I was 4-2 in my lineup, and I still won. Okay, because I played the guy that was against one of the other 53% owned fighters. I played the other guys. Right? I played the guys that were against the 2 of the highest owned fighters. So I direct leverage, and they both scored over 100 points. One was only 11% owned in the 555, and the other was 20% owned in the 555. And then buys, who was the highest scoring on the slate, was like that high price guy, was like that Aldo, like poor inside the distance. Like she was like I think 15%, 20%, 20. I think she was 22%. It's like, oh, she's not going to get a finish. And she had a head kick, quick win bonus, 138 points. There you go. 4-2 lineup winning the 555. But you're looking to win, just like in baseball. When you have that type of mentality, you're looking to win low scoring slates. You're looking to take advantage of the field's overconfidence and what's going to happen and predicting an outcome. I just look at the actual betting line. I just assume this is efficient. Manifield has a 58% chance. Herman has a 19% chance. He's going to be 8% owned, so play him. But, no buts. It's just Herman has no chance of locking, he's at 19%. That's what plus 415 means. No chance that this would be 8 million, right? If he had no chance, it would be that, right? It'd be 900 plus 999 and 99, right? He doesn't. It's 410, right? Whatever it was there. 20%, what was it? Was it 405, 415? Yeah, I'll fix it. That doesn't matter. There is a chance. Look at that. None of, right? Oh, Kowalkiewicz, the walk away with the first, look at this. Torres, 7%, plus 1250 to win inside the first round. Be like, that's never happened. It's 7%. That's not never. That's like 1 out of every 18 to 19 times. But if she's going to be owned at nothing, if no one's going to own her, take a shot. That's what expected value is. So that's what I do in MMA. Shane Newman, hey Blender, what site do you pull all the odds from again? I best fight odds, but I typically use an offshore book. Typically, they get sharper action. Pinnacle 5 Dimes bookmaker. I mean, you could do the same. You could do the same. You could use DraftKings Sportsbook odds. You could, but understand that the VIG is going to be higher. Like this is not. These are the VIG odds. These aren't the no VIG odds. You could convert them. Also, I tried making the spreadsheet, wondering how the combined leverage is calculated. I've been futzing around with it. It depends on the slate. Like what I've been trying to do is like on the last slate, for instance, like the reason I played buys on the last slate is because her on a 10-fight slate, the importance of getting fighters that win go up. The larger slates, who cares if they win if they only score 72 points? There's too many fighters on the slate that could have 190, 100-point scores. That having a winning fighter with 70 doesn't have as much value. On a 10-fight slate, it does. There's only so many fights. 9 fights. I mean, on the really small slates, you want to prioritize winning. So that's what I was trying to do. I made that last week because it was all screwing up my numbers. It's like, because Cheyenne Buys had like the highest differential between winning and her ownership, but had a very low inside the distance. So like if I was to add them all up together, like it came out to a pretty low number. So I'm like, I need to be able to weight the winning leverage differently depending on the size of the slate. So that's what I tried doing. So now I made it divide. I mean, this is not a good formula. Don't go by this. This just gives me a way to just at least like kind of rank them. So I like kind of weighed them. So multiply the inside the distance by 1.5, multiply the round 1 by 2, and divide the win by 4. And I think like last week, I was like dividing the win by like nothing, by 1, because if you could do this, if I do just by 1, and I copy, and I paste special, paste formula only, right? It'll make the fighters that have higher win leverage even better plays. But I don't want that on like Jose Aldo would be a great play. I'm not saying he isn't, because if he's only going to be 12% owned, but I'm not as concerned about them win like Torres, Aldo, Kowalkiewicz, or Kowalkiewicz, however you pronounce her name, Herman, like win. It's a 13-fight slate. There's 26 fighters. Like I care a lot more about them putting up, finishing, non-decision. So I'm going to divide that win by a lot more. So it's not weighted as much, right? So you copy this, paste it, paste special, paste formula. So these numbers go, the guy, right? Torres, Aldo, like don't rank as well as John's, for instance, like John's or Gatto, right? You look at Torres. Torres is much higher win leverage, but barely anything. I mean, she's not plus 645 to win inside the distance, right? So yeah, she's still, she gets a lot of value from winning at 8,700, but I'd still probably play, Gatto, Johns, Munoz, Fiziev above her. There's no technical, there's no scientific notion in this. Just allows it. All it is a cheat sheet. I'm not like, oh, now you add up the numbers and then you play the lineups with these numbers. Like, no, I'm not doing that. That's why, to me, this isn't a model. This is more of a cheat sheet. And then obviously the ownership, it all depends on what you project the ownership to be. That's why I said, Chiesa is not going to be 17% though. This is initial ownership from RotoGrinders from yesterday. This will change. And also I will make manual changes as well. So if you want to play MMA, it's easy. MMA is easy. There's not much to think about. You're playing 6 fighters, and you don't play fighters against each other. And there you go. You're done. Get six winners that score 100 plus. Most likely you're going to win a lot. Most likely you do well. And if I'm not going to win, well, you might as well win, right? You might as well win. I always root for myself first. That's the rule. I root for myself first, and then root for you guys second. And it depends on how many lineups I have. If I have 10 lineups, then I'm rooting for you 11th, right? Because I want I want first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. Then you come in 11th, right? So after all my lineups, okay? If I have 150 lineups, you're probably not going to be profitable. So I wanted to come in first through 150th place, and then you could have 151st place, all to yourselves. But if you want advice and everything about today's slate, we got Grinders Live coming up at 5:30 Eastern, crunch time for premium members at 6:30. Sign up for RotoGrinders Premium and get $10 off your first month. Obviously, sign up for if you want to get theoryofdfs.com. That's my 15-hour audio DFS masterclass. It has all these concepts in it already, right? I'm not saying anything that's new, right? It's all in there. Structured education, 12 chapters, 15 hours, theoryofdfs.com. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe let's go back to back. My MMA has been saving my MLB this past month. I would have never thought that would have been based on last year, right? Because I started playing MMA during the COVID came and they were playing on Fight Island. There's no sports. I'll try MMA, and I was using this process, but not anywhere as precise. And the chalk was just hitting, right? Chalk. And I'm like, is this ever going to work? Is this ever going to work? So I would have not expected, based on the beginning, that my MMA results the past month or so is just that's what's holding me up. That's what's saving me from MLB, because MLB, I'm just steak knives after steak knives after steak knives. But that's the way it is. That's GPP. That's the way it is. Ups and downs in GPP. So hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live later today. And I will see you next week, because I'm always here. This is what I do. Answer your DFS strategy questions on the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders.com.